So we put on the website, we put on the consultation form, but we started recording. And consultation. Nervous? Is she nervous?
I think she is. You know, she's reactive to people. She's reactive to dogs. Got anxiety. She follows me all through the house all the time. I think she. But you know, she's never. There's always been somebody in the house.
Sure.
This has been through COVID. So.
Okay.
Part of the problem that we have is we have 2 teenagers who were supposed to come with us, but then now they both have to work tonight, so they're not here.
Oh, sure.
But the problem is that we don't, first of all, we don't know where to start.
Okay.
We've tried to get into dog classes, but because again of COVID, there's like no dog classes. So we've been trying to do like just basic sit, lay, crate, bed, you know, and then tried even like to go outside and have her, you know, heels and stuff like that. But we have no recall for her. She doesn't pay any attention at all.
In the house, she kind of does, especially when there's treats involved, of course. Like if we let her out on the leash out back to go take a break, and then you call her for to stand there, stare at you. Don't come back in, and then go out towards her, then she'll run towards me, and then she'll run and stay by the door. It's kind of bizarre.
And you know, the issue that we have is that we both work full time. Our children are not consistent enough, and they don't know enough to train. And we just want a well-trained dog, and I just feel like it will make her happier, and it would make, you know, we just
You
want
happy?
Oh, we're happy, but I mean, I want her to be happy too.
Yeah.
I don't know how to talk to her, you know what I mean?
Sure.
She's a great dog. I mean, she's really sweet, and maybe you should not be doing that.
How 4.5 months?
4.5 months, yeah.
Okay. Before reaching out, did you guys do any research on how we train and all that stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a couple of options here. We've had a few same age, 4.5 months, puppies wanting to do board and trains. So I'm not sure if you're one that we has suggested you do a consultation because you have options because of her age and her size.
Okay.
Okay. Typically for puppies under 6 months, we do food-based training. Okay. However, it's not going to be reliable long term. So like all our puppies that come to our daycare for Puppy Head Start, any puppies, like if it's a 2 to 3 month old puppy, we definitely do food only because they're so young. It's like kindergarten. Okay. But a dog her size and at her age, about 4.5 months, you can actually start pushing for more advanced, more reliable training. Okay. So I'm going to give you your options and the realistic ceiling that each option has, and then you pick and choose what you want to do. Okay. So if we do food only, we would use a gentle leader, which goes on the muzzle. It's just a strap that has a little like piece of line here you clip your leash to, and it gives you direct control over the head. Okay. So it helps a lot with leash pulling and all that stuff. Because here with the harnesses promote pulling, and harnesses also promote frustration and agitation. So if she's barking at someone because she's nervous or she's excited or whatever, and you pull back, you're actually amplifying that behavior. And you're actually telling her, keep doing this. Okay, we do this in protection training. So like dogs that train for the police force and all that stuff, what they do is they put the dog in a harness and they pull back. And someone's across from them agitating them as an antagonizer to create barking and frustration and lunging and biting so that we can create controlled aggression. Okay. So this is why a lot of puppies grow into adults with reactivity is because most people put their puppies on harnesses, which I understand because if a puppy is pulling, they're putting pressure on the trachea and all that stuff.
Well, that was the problem, is that she was pulling and she was choking herself out. So I was like, I can't do this, you know?
So for puppies under 6 months, you know, typically we do the gentle leader because it helps remove, because it's on the face, so it's kind of like putting a bridle on a horse, you're controlling the head. However, it doesn't really serve any purpose in terms of correctional value. Okay, so that's one approach you have, again, because of her age. The next step from that would be a prong collar, which is the spiky looking collar. Okay, much more effective because it's kind of like a gentle leader, except it also gives you the capacity to correct her. Okay, so if she's becoming reactive, you know, whether it be friendly or whatever, and you decide like I disagree with this behavior, the prong collar mimics a mother's dog bite, right? That's why it looks the way it does. So people look at it like, oh my God, that looks like a torture device. I'm like, no, it's designed to mimic a dog bite because that's what dogs do to each other. They bite each other. And then the next step above that is, and the problem, sorry, with both the gentle leader and the prong collar, is that if you take the leash off, if you're at the dog park or whatever, to let her run around and play, you now no longer have a means of control. Correct. So the next step is e-collar. And all my puppies over 6 months are on e-collar, for sure, okay? And I get clients that say, like, Jesse, I don't want to do e-collar, my puppy's 7 months, just do food. And I'll tell them no, because I'll ask them, like, what do you want your dog to do? Like, oh, my dog to collar with my collar. I go, well, you're not going to get that with food only. That's why we stop at 6 months, because at 6 months, dogs treat their puppies like adults. Okay, so we can actually train them to an adult level, and because of her size and her age, she's closer to that 6 months range. Because I can train a puppy as young as 2 months on e-collar, but the general public is not comfortable with it. So I have to say, wait till 6 months, because typically by 6 months, the puppy's done enough to drive them crazy that they're ready for, like, okay, what can I do now?
Well, I mean, one of the problems is that she's already really a strong dog, you know? And so I primarily walk her, and she can pull me, if I'm not paying attention, it's really fast. She'll see a squirrel and it's like, whoa. And I'm like, whoa. I've lost her leash a couple of times where I'm like, oh, stop. You know, she does stop, but I don't want that to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a gamble.
Yeah. I feel kind of bad. I feel like I'm lazy that I'm asking somebody to help me like this, but like I said, there's only so many hours in the day, and I want somebody to teach me so that we can be us, so that we can be consistent. And, you know, she's looking at me like she's
Yeah, so I get it. No, like I tell everybody, so the way I've shaped both my in-person programs and my board and train and stuff like that is people have families, they have their social lives, they have their work lives, they have the, you know, maybe they're taking care of somebody. There's all these things in life, and then you have a dog, right? Most trainers kind of require you to essentially learn how to be a trainer to train your dog. And I'm like, no, because you're not going into this as a career. You don't need to learn all these skills. I want what's going to be effective and what's going to be easy, and is not too much of a burden on you that you're just not going to do it. Because that's why most methods fail. That's why food fails, because it's not realistic. It requires, it's too complicated. Prong collar is better, but when you remove the leash, you no longer have control. Or if you were to get off the leash, you don't have control. E-collar is the only tool that allows that, but also it requires very little effort on your part. Okay, now you'll still have, because you're interested in board and train, am I correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. There's still work for you to do. It's just it's all been done, and we're just transferring it to you. Okay. And I'll explain how all this stuff works. Okay. So if you want to do food, it's going to require you to learn a lot more, and it's not going to be reliable in the long run. You'd be back saying, Jesse, the food didn't work like you said. We're ready for the next step. Okay. So prong collar, again, much better. Prong collar requires you to learn more technical skill, but also if you take the leash off, you're not going to have any control. So you can just jump straight to remote. Okay? You don't have to worry about, most trainers do the phases. It's not necessary. I understand as a business, because obviously you can get more money out of the person, but I'm trying to help as many people as possible. So it's not necessary. It doesn't help her any. You know, like in some cases.
We're not opposed to either the prong or the e-collar. We really aren't. I'm not.
No, what's the e-collar?
So the e-collar, most people think of it as what's called a shock collar, okay? But it's not a shock, it's not electricity. It's a miniaturized TENS unit. Have you ever been to a physical therapist or a chiropractor?
Yeah, so it's
STEM? Yes, that's an e-collar. So it's just a muscle contraction. So it's electric, but not electricity. So it's just a muscle stimulator.
It's not painful.
It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
The higher you go, just like with, you know, if you've been, the higher they go, the more uncomfortable it becomes. So here, I think that it has a bite on a button. Okay, so just like with the prong collar designed to look like a dog bite, or mimic a dog bite, see the prong collar, the way we apply it, we want her to understand it. It's kind of like she's being nipped or bitten. Okay, so we teach it as a matter of communication. So like right here, if I had my e-collar and she was conditioned and I didn't want that, I could press the button. It would cause a contraction, and if it's at the appropriate level, the going to deter her from that behavior. Okay, because I'm essentially like biting her and saying, hey, I don't want you to bark at whatever's over there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we have behavior and we have obedience. Now, part of this barking is because she's unsettled.
Yeah.
Okay, if you look at her, her tail's wagging and stuff, right? She's kind of just staring over there. Is because she's nervous and she's unsettled. So when she's hearing something, she's on alert.
Right.
And she's kind of letting them know, like, hey, I know you're there.
Okay.
Okay? So here, if she were to be in a more passive state, we wouldn't even see that.
Okay.
Okay? So ideally, when we do discipline, it helps dogs relax.
Right.
Okay? Because if a dog was annoyed by her barking, you would just come over and say, boop, stop barking.
Yeah.
Right? That's the language. Bite means I want you to stop barking, whatever it is you're barking over.
Right, but it's not like a huge bite. Those are like nips, right? When you're talking about that, are you talking about like?
On the remote or the dog?
No, the dog.
It depends on the dog.
Okay.
Some dogs correct correctly and will do a nip, and the dog yips and they walk away and they settle. Some dogs overcorrect. Okay, and it's kind of like a person who has anger management issues, and like the tiniest thing sets them to an extreme.
Okay.
It's kind of the same thing for dogs. So when I say a bite, like I mean like an applicable or appropriate bite.
Yeah.
But there are some dogs that just overdo it.
She's super annoying. Like we went. I love her. I do.
Sure.
But when there's another dog around, she never stops barking. Like never. It's like stop barking for
Yes.
She doesn't have really good social skills with other dogs. But again, we can't go anywhere.
Yeah, and a lot of that is because of overstimulation. Like with that situation, there is most likely overstimulation and nervousness.
Okay.
I can tell you have a nervous dog.
Okay.
Okay, because nervous dogs trigger when there's something different in the environment.
Yeah.
Okay, a fearful dog wants to run away and keeps barking. An anxious dog keeps moving. A nervous dog will settle, but then if something happens or changes, they trigger.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why when they came in, and then when I came into your space, when she started barking, the first thing I said, oh, you got a nervous dog here.
Yeah.
Right, I picked that up right away.
Yeah.
So I can't make her unnervous,
No.
but what we can do is teach her how to handle nervousness better,
Okay.
and also help her trigger less easily.
Okay.
So if we have a more relaxed dog, it takes more for them to trigger. But if we have a dog, like here, see how she laid down? But look at that posture. She's still alert,
Yeah.
right? So she's still like on a 4 to 5 scale right now, that if something changes, she's gonna just jump into it, as opposed to if she was at a 0 to 1.
Yeah. She'll be laying down.
So the way the e-collar would work is, it's not the obedience that's helping her relax, it's actually discipline.
Okay.
It's the nipping and biting from the e-collar
Okay.
and putting rules on her and disagreeing with things. And she goes, oh, okay, I guess these things I can't do because there's consequences for them.
Right.
Okay?
So that's what we don't know how to do. I mean, we don't know how to set that boundary, what the appropriate way to set the boundary is. And we don't even know what boundary she needs, like, what I'm saying. I mean, I just want, I want a happy dog. I want her to be, I want her to be happy.
And
She's driving us a little crazy.
yeah, dogs want direction.
Right.
All animals do. Okay, even humans. That's why we have a president, a vice president, and all that stuff in government, right? We have leaders and all that. I own this business. That's my personality type. But there's people that don't want to own my business. They'd rather work for my business. That's their personality type. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
In the dog world, and the human world also, the ratio is about 80% followers to 20% leaders. Because if everybody was a leader, everybody would be fighting each other, right? So it's the way of the world. So for dogs, they tend to be followers, which is why when you start to give them direction and consequence and stuff, in most cases, they're just compliant. They go with it.
Okay.
Unless I'm dealing with a more confident, dominant leader type dog, then we're going to get conflict. Like the dog that just actually left before you guys is one of those personality types. It was not easy getting him to be compliant. Okay. So here, what you can expect from the boarding train is we do cover all 6 basic family pet commands. Sit, stay, down, come, place, heel. Okay. We film the first session of everything we teach your dog. Okay. So you learn how she responded the first time she was introduced to it. Okay. You see everything as she just learns it, because that's the most stressful component for the dog. Stress is a part of the training. Okay. But that's what creates reliability. Most trainers work around stress. Oh, the dog's too stressed out, let's stop, don't push anymore. Oh, this stresses your dog out? Okay, we're gonna work in an environment where your dog is not stressed. But then the most common problem that people have is, hey Jesse, when I'm in an environment where there's stressors, my dog doesn't listen.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, because those methods aren't realistic. The e-collar is a stressor because it's a negative, it's an aversive. Aversives are meant to stop things. So if you touch a hot stove, you don't touch it again. That's an aversive. But it's also a motivator as well. Because no one wants to keep themselves in an uncomfortable situation. We always want to remove ourselves, right? So that's what makes the training reliable, is the way we teach e-collars was called pressure work. Have you ever seen, or maybe you've done this yourself, where you pull up on a dog and you push down on the butt, you create a sit?
Yeah.
That's pressure, but you're using physical pressure. Okay, so what we do is very similar, is we're doing physical pressure as we're doing the remote on a number that she feels, and it's not high where it's making her yelp, but it's low enough that she can take it.
Right.
And as soon as she sits, it disappears. And then if she gets up, we start remoting, we reposition her. As soon as she sits, it disappears. So she's learning, hey, when I feel this physical pressure, when I go with it, the e-collar disappears. So then she thinks, oh, there's a way for me to control this. If I keep my butt down, nothing happens. But if I put my butt up, boom, the pressure kicks in, I go back down, it disappears again. So it becomes a line of communication, okay? But because it's uncomfortable to a degree, she's motivated not to get up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So everybody wants to do things positive only. It's not realistic. I was raised old school, I was spanked, right? And the reason for spanking was to stop me from doing bad things, talking back to my mom,
Danger.
Yeah, all that stuff. So it's a part of life. So that's what makes obedience reliable. And for our younger dogs, we do pair food with the training. So we do positive and negative, okay, for the younger dogs. You don't have to worry about that. All you have to worry about is the remote stuff, okay? Because the remote stuff easily transfers over as long as you're doing what we show you. So the first week, she learns all 6 commands. You get a raw video of this is how your dog learned and this is how your dog responded to the e-collar. Because I know she's a nervous dog. I can see it for sure right now. And she's not going to respond in the video like another dog would. Okay? If I have a completely stable dog, you might see a totally different response. And it's not because the e-collar is making her that way. She already is that way. Okay? So you're going to see that. We send that to you. You watch the video. It's usually can anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half. Okay? And everything's explained to you real time. You're watching your dog being trained. And as soon as you get that video, well, actually, she's doing a board train, I'm sorry. You can do your follow-ups. Okay? Now, typically, what I recommend for my board train clients is they watch the videos and they save their follow-ups for after the program. Okay? So after 1 week, you get a video. We have the second week, you get a separate video. Okay? The second video is to show you her progress. Okay, where it's like your dog started like this, and now your dog is like this. Okay? And literally, the stuff that you see in the video is the stuff that I would show you if we met in person. So instead of just coming in here and repeating stuff, you get your dog back and you apply what you pull from the videos. And you practice. You can take 2 weeks, you can take a month, you can take a week. I don't care. But then when you go okay, we're having struggles here. We're not understanding the heel like it is in the video. Then you come in, so then you're like, Jesse, the sit's good, the down's good, the place is good, the stay is good, but we're struggling with the heel. And I go, okay, this is, what are you doing? Then I help you fix that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So it's a resource for you, because we want you to pull as much as possible from the videos and the training and stuff. And the lessons never expire. We had a client who did, we had a number of clients who did 4-week board trains with us. And this was the videos that we're doing now. And they only did 2 or 3 classes, and their dogs have been great. They've not needed to come back to do more follow-up. Okay, because you get so many follow-up classes depending on the length of the program. So the videos acted as the initial resource, and we started that because of COVID. But then also for people, it's just a lot of information to retain in one lesson. Because before we used to do a 2-hour pickup lesson. So you would just here's a ton of information. And then, people will come back and it was just a lot, but they still got it. So the videos have helped just kind of streamline that a bit more. So then, like, let's say everything's going great for 6 months and you don't need a follow-up with me, but then something happens in 6 months. You booked your lesson. They don't expire. They're there. Okay. So the only, and I think you had mentioned a 2-week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, can you tell me? I looked at the 2-week. Is that? I mean, do you think that's reasonable?
So I think it's perfectly fine for puppies. 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Puppies we go a little bit slower. Okay, because they're younger dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So like a 6-month-old puppy may not advance as quickly as a year-old dog. Okay, they advance quickly, but just a tiny bit slower. So we usually recommend 2 to 3 weeks for puppies because it allows us to just ease them into the pressure. How do you say? More effectively. In terms of length of time, the longer the program, the closer your dog is going to be towards off-leash reliability. Okay. If all you need, so the 2-week program, think of it as you're going to walk your dog and take your dog to the dog park. It's that kind of obedience level. But if it's like we go hiking, we're going to go to restaurants, we're going to go to the dog park, we're going to go to the dog beach, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, do a ton of stuff with your dog, then you're thinking more 4 weeks. Okay, because we're trying to push your dog, we're trying to advance them as close to off-leash control as possible. You're still going to have a little bit of work to do. Okay? Because even though we've had them for 4 weeks, recall is the one command that Coleman called that takes the longest to teach anybody. Okay, like it takes my clients months to get it fully off-leash reliable. They have the tools and the concepts, but now they got to practice when they're at the dog park. Now they got to practice when their dog's chasing a squirrel, when their dog is running away from a loud sound, blah, 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 right? To proof it. And we proof as much as possible, but at the same time, something could happen in life just that's completely out of the blue, and that's where the training really kicks in. Okay? So recall is the one thing you should expect that you're going to have to do the most work on post your training. Everything else, sit, stay down, place, and heel, relatively transfer relatively easy. It's just a recall. Okay? So I think 2 weeks is fine. And you can always do 2 weeks, see how she does, have her for a bit, and if you go travel, you know, say like, hey, can we do, another week, and then you should bring her on, and we can advance from where she was. Okay? Because the other thing is, like we have a dog right now, her name's Shelby, she's a golden doodle. She's doing a daycare and train, and they're doing 10 days, which is essentially a 2-week equivalent to the board and train, but she's a very flighty dog. Okay, so she responds to stress, she wants to run away from it. And they were just trying to breeze right through it. And then as soon as I said she was flighty, I was like, you're not going to be able to breeze through it. We're going to have to space out those classes, those days, because they needed time to expose her more. To get her over the flightiness and build her confidence with it. Okay. With the board and train, it's a little bit easier just because we have the dog for so long. But that's just something to bear in mind, because she is, I can tell you right now, a nervous dog for sure. But we won't know until we actually start working with her. Okay. Questions or anything?
So with the board and train, so how does that work? I mean, like, because I am interested in the board and train. I don't know if you are. It's $1,500. It's like a $1,500.
Yeah. So she would get the under 6-month rate. Which is nice. Because she's technically under 6 months, but because it's a puppy, how do you say? You get lower rate, but you can still do e-collar training. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what do we do? Do we purchase all the everything for her?
So do we know how big she's gonna get?
Well, I've had the breeder that I got her from said, oh, she'll be 45 pounds, but she's like 40 pounds right now.
I know, she's only 4.5 months, so I'm not expecting.
Yeah.
Well, that's only our vet said,
Then the vet was like, well, 90 pounds. I'm like, 90 pounds? I'm thinking 70.
I mean, we don't know what.
My guess would be like 60 to 70.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
60, I'm guessing 60 for sure.
Yeah. Because, she's got some sizable paws, and for 4.5 months at that size, she's pretty tall. And typically puppies don't stop growing until around 6 months. Typically at 6 months they hit their height, and then it's like kind of teenager body, right, tall and lanky, and then at a year they fill out. So I would guess 60 to 70. So what I would suggest is the collar, we would send you the link for it. You go on Amazon, you order it. It's meant for 70-pound dogs and over. So let's say she doesn't hit 70 pounds. It's okay. Like you can use it on smaller dogs. It's just there's more output, meaning the number is going to be lower. Okay. So you're covered. You're not having to worry about. I get one collar, my dog outgrows it, and I got to spend another $300 for another collar. Okay. They run about $325-ish with tax. That's a very reliable collar. I've been using it for years. 1 mile range, fully waterproof system, both the transmitter and the receiver, so she can swim in it. All that stuff. I've had mine for 8 years, no issues. The most common thing that we get is that the battery is a rechargeable lithium battery, like a cell phone. So like over a couple of years, they get worn out. You just go to the website, find the battery that you need, and then purchase it, and then you can just replace it, and you should be good to go. Okay. So the way this would work is Maria would contact you, or you can even reach out to her and say, like, yes, we're good to go. And let's say you want to do 2 weeks, she'd send you the make and model that we say to order, get it on Amazon, and then you pick your dates. Okay. And then once we get your videos edited, put together and stuff, you get that as soon as we get them done. And then, you know, we suggest you watch them and stuff so that when you get her back, you can start practicing what you've learned, and then you schedule your follow-up as needed. Other questions?
How long does that work for you? How long do you have her?
Oh, you determine that. So if she said 2 weeks, we have her for 14 days. You know, one of the most common questions that we get is, when does the e-collar go away? And in my book, when you need it, it doesn't. Okay, so what that means is when you're outside with her, if you're at the dog park, if you're at the dog beach, whatever, it's present. Because there's a lot of things in play. And the very common thought process is you train your dog and your dog learns to be a good dog. That's not true. Okay?
Dogs are just dogs, right?
Yes, dogs are just dogs. Dogs have a learning capacity of a 3 to 4 year old child. So I would never expect a 3 to 4 year old child to like become responsible, get a job, pay the rent, right? So same thing for the dogs. You guys drive? You go on the expressway? Do you go the speed limit?
No.
Okay. So even as humans who are aware of the laws and the speed limits and stuff, we still push things. But if there's a squad car, what happens? Go the speed limit, right? It's called opportunistic behavior. All animals do it. It's part of survival instinct. Okay? So think of that e-collar as a cop on a collar. If she's a great dog in the house, you don't need it, right? But if she's going to be off leash, or if you're going to be walking her and stuff, you need it. And it's not that you're always using it. It's just that cop is present. So she's like, oh, I can't speed when I'm walking with mom. I have to go the speed limit if I walk beside her. Right? So that's how that works. It has nothing to do with our skills as trainers. It's nothing to do with like the effort that you put in or anything like that. It's simply just opportunistic behavior. Okay? So if you take her out without the collar, she's going to misbehave. Okay? Just like with kids. Sometimes there's households where the kids respect one parent over the other. So if that parent that they respect is not around, they push the boundaries to the other one. Okay? So one of the things that holds people back the most, and I see it a lot with boarding trains and daycare and trains, is we're trainers, and we've been doing this, I've been doing this 10 years, my trainer's been doing this for now over a year, is if we get resistance for whatever reason, whether it's because she's nervous or she's shutting down because she's saying, I don't like this, I don't want to do it, we don't stop. Because if we stop, we create unreliable obedience. Okay, we need the dog to comply. And it's not because we're mean, but it's because you're paying us to get you a reliable dog. Is if we give her back to you, right, and you have your video and everything, and in the video you notice we have to go to, for example, this is an exaggeration, 65 out of 127 levels. Okay, because it's in increments of 1. If it's 65 and then 65, she's the perfect dog. And you're logical, and you're like, but 65 is really high, that's half of 127, right? People feel that, right? And so then they go lower on the collar. And then next thing you know, the dog's not listening to them. But then when they come here, they're listening because we go to 65. Okay, is that will work against you. I don't know what her number's gonna be. Her temperament, her breed, her size, her age, none of that matters. It's just a dog. Some puppies are really tough and resilient. Some puppies are super sensitive. We determine all that stuff, and you see it in the video. Okay? So if that were to happen, and it's like, you know, oh, like she's not coming when I call her, Jesse, and I'm like, go to 95. You're like, but I can't. What if she yelps? I'm like, well, then she yelps, but at least she comes back. You know, because I train for emergency situations. I've had dogs, you know, run from clients because of fireworks, which is like the most common thing. I had a client whose dog scared a coyote out of brush in Lincoln Park, and he was able to recall his dog back immediately. His wife hated the e-collar, but then after that happened, like, holy crap, we understand the effectiveness and the power of the e-collar. You know, I've had a client pull her dog out of a dog fight, and then, you know, avoided any harm, you know, but she had to max out the collar and, you know, get the dog, and the dog yelped, but she's like, but she 180 and pull right out of that fight. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it sucks, but it's either you gamble something worse, or your dog yips, gets a really strong muscle contraction and returns. Okay, so, and I say this so that you're ready.
Okay.
In case that's what it is.
Yeah.
Most cases it's not. You know, but if you go into one like, okay, Jesse explained this and he said this is a possibility and I'm okay with it, then we're not worried about any kind of inhibitions.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions, concerns?
Well, okay, like, is it like a kid going to camp then? I mean, or do I provide you with all our food?
Correct, yeah. So you can bring her with the blanket, 2 weeks worth of food, the e-collar, and then your leash and her flat collar. Okay. Don't be surprised if you come back and some of the food has not been eaten. Has she ever been away from you guys at all?
No.
No, yeah. So very common because they're in a completely unknown environment that they don't eat for a few days. Okay. So we'll do our best, of course, to try to put the food with the training and stuff, and obviously just give her meals as well. And she may not eat. It's perfectly normal. Typically after a couple of days, once they relax and get used to the environment, plus she'll get to play with the puppies, which will help her ease into it more, but they'll start eating. Okay. But it's not uncommon in the beginning that they don't. Okay. Other questions?
No.
So then after today, Maria will give us a call and just talk to us about an opportunity.
Yeah, whatever program length you want to do.
Okay.
So if you decide with 2 weeks, she would say, okay, what dates would you like? You'd give her the dates. Because we only take so many at a time.
Right.
So which we have space right now. We have 1 board and train and 2 daycare and train, so we're good. Because we cap it at 4. But I know we have 3 to 4 more requests for a board and train.
Okay.
So then you tell her the length of time, and then you pick the dates. She gets you scheduled in. You want to make sure that you have your collar and everything. If for whatever reason it doesn't come in, it's fine. You can still bring her because we have our own here to work with. But definitely, once you get her back, you're going to want to have your collar ready to go. Okay. Anything else?
Oh, no, I mean, I'm pretty comfortable. Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, part of your fee gets credited towards, or actually part of it, all of it, because you came here, gets credited towards your program as well.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and if you want to learn more about how we train, just go to our YouTube channel on our website.
Okay.
We have one-on-one lessons with people. You can see how those work out. We also have a playlist that's called Board and Trains, one's daycare and trains, puppy head start, like all our stuff is on YouTube, so it just kind of gives you the feel for it.
So the board and trains, so then she goes and lives with the trainer. Does the trainer bring her here?
She's here with us.
Okay.
Yes, there's someone on premise 24/7.
Okay, so she's living in this facility.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she works with several trainers, including myself. We train all day. Okay. So it's not like most places. It's like 15 minutes here and there. So we do a lot of duration work. Duration work is go here, don't move for the next 2 hours. Okay. She'll also do treadmill time. She'll get her play time to play with like the pups and stuff. She'll go on training walks where she can go to Home Depot or PetSmart, whatever's nearby. Sometimes they go to Horner Park depending on the weather, which is nearby. So we can start practicing stuff outside because we're trying to make it as realistically applicable and reliable as possible. And then essentially from 7 to 7, which is when we open and close, she's training. In the last few hours of the day, she's able to just like decompress and have time for herself and stuff. And then at 10 o'clock, it's nighttime.
She's pee and poop outside somewhere.
Excuse me?
She pee and poop outside.
Yes, we take them outside. Yeah. We don't, I mean, it happens obviously, like dogs will still pee, but we take them outside to go potty.
Okay. Well, she's pretty good.
Do you know, so will she ever outgrow being car sick? So we park, she's wrong.
Sure. So, yes. It's kind of like, it's motion sickness.
It's like a person.
Yeah.
They have it or you don't have it.
It's possible if she gets over to stress.
Yeah. It stresses her out. She doesn't like to be in the car.
There's a way we could potentially work with it, okay? But if she just gets motion sickness because of motion sickness, you can talk to the vet. I think there's such a thing as doggy Dramamine.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're ever going to do any long trips or road trips or anything like that, don't feed her, obviously, prior.
Yeah.
So she doesn't puke over food or anything like that. But it's honestly, if you left it to just her, it's a who knows. With training, it's a possibility, very slim one. Otherwise, just, Dramamine, whatever.
And then the leash, this leash is fine?
Yeah.
Retractable?
What you have here is fine.
You're
This
gonna
here-
use probably something else?
Excuse me?
Like you'll train with something else where you use the leash we give you, is that, I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we have our leashes here.
Mhm.
It doesn't really matter what leash we use. But just a flat collar, whatever you have is perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because the leash doesn't clip to the e-collar, it clips to the flat collar.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
likewise. And if you have any other questions or concerns, just feel free to reach out.
Okay.
Maria will be in touch. And like I said, if you just want to learn more about, or even see like an example of like the videos that we send,
Yeah,
just go to our YouTube channel
okay.
and just look up the board and train playlist or daycare and train,
Mhm.
and we call them the explanatory sessions. That's the first lesson of everything.
Okay.
Okay, and Shelby is actually the dog that I was talking about that's really flighty, that I told them to kind of space out their daycare days with her. So she'd be a good example to watch because she kind of reminds me of this
Stella?
one here. Yeah. Okay.
All right, thanks.
Good to know.
I know right now she's chilling. But yeah, we'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank you
Um,
so much.
And you're welcome to if you want to.